Welcome back to the NWA Canine Corso show where we talk everything dogs. Today we have a special guest, Geryah Dingle. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But everybody, welcome back. Soon as you come in, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Um, so we were just talking about how we don't like to know too much about somebody before we start talking. So I kind of brush over some main things you do and things like that. So we're gonna start from the beginning. How about you just give the audience a brief introduction on who you are?
Sure. Yeah, I think the reason I got invited on this podcast is likely because he saw me on YouTube. I have a German Shepherd dog, largely in the canine scent detection space,
Mhm.
but more for sport and recreation with my dog, not necessarily for the working dog type. So my YouTube channel is all about basically canine scent detection and then just a couple of other interests that we touch on from time to time with pet photography and pet tech.
Right. So what made you want to start doing the YouTube channel and podcasting?
Yeah, so we started the channel first organically, and like many, this is before YouTube became, as I would say, a little bit more business-like. I mean, there literally is a way to do YouTube and be successful, but we didn't have all that back in the day, and everybody was just
Mhm.
winging it.
Yeah.
We were coming off the hills of Facebook, and it was starting to not be, I mean, people still use it. I still use Facebook. I don't want to kill it too much, but there's a lot of folks. I think YouTube just surpassed Netflix as like having the most viewership, so people are on YouTube. But back in 20, I believe 16 or 17, we started the channel, and it was really just one of the most just basic reasons, right? I just wanted to document training with my dog. And oh, hey, here's this new platform. I can load it up. I can send the videos to the fam and they can see how we're doing. Because we got Disney when he was a puppy. So Disney's my German Shepherd dog. So when you hear me say Disney, I'm talking about my dog. And
Mhm.
that's really why we started the channel. I was going to document our journey in training. And at that time, there really wasn't a focus on scent detection per se. Really, it was just the things I was doing with my dog. And at that point, when you just get a dog and bring him into your family, basic obedience.
Yeah. You said something about YouTube. I know a lot of people don't know this, but YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world behind Google, which is owned by Google, right?
Yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
it's basically a search engine, right?
Yeah. So it's just important as being on, back, not even back in the day, still like websites and things are important, but YouTube is really important right now, you know. Let me ask you this. When did when did you kind of discover your first love for dogs? When did that start?
Yeah. I've always loved animals in general. Like I would
Okay.
probably have horses if I could. I say if I could because land and stuff like that, and horses. I mean, they get sick all the time. No shade to horse lovers, but they need a lot of maintenance. They need a lot of maintenance, and I would want to have the facilities and time and all of that to be able to do that. So, dogs. Grew up, had a few, probably mixed breeds, really. I think
Hmm.
I had one. He was mostly Boston Terrier and probably like a mix of Chow dog. So I had about two dogs that were actually our dogs, I think, growing up. And then there was just always dogs around the family, like dogs in the neighborhood. Grandparents had dogs and a bunch of puppies. So I've just been the animal girl growing up, just like I was the one who wanted to play with the animals. And it was always like, I don't know if we have time. And if we get an animal, are you going to make sure you take care of it?
Right.
And then so yeah, they let me have them. And but we never really had what I would say like, I mean, you could cheat a little bit, right, when it comes to the breeds. Like a German Shepherd is kind of cheating. Even a poodles are very intelligent dogs.
Hmm.
Obviously the Shepherd dogs in general, right? I mean, if you go all out, you can really cheat, but you also got to have the energy for those types of dogs. So I knew when I was able to sustain it and have the time that I wanted to get a dog that was trainable, that could exercise with me, and kind of do some of those more advanced behaviors. And obviously, he's still a companion, but I had a certain vision of what I thought my family dog life would be like. So that's why we went with a German Shepherd today.
Gotcha. I don't know if I asked, but where are you from?
From down south, really in the Florida area.
Oh, okay, cool, cool,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Southern girl. All right, that's what's up. So, your channel. has a big focus on scent work. How long have you been doing scent work?
Yeah, and it's really just by happenstance. Really, I won't even say it was intentional. Like I said, I was just documenting what me and my dog were doing, and we've posted a video on the channel, and it's still the most popular video today. I don't even know what the number of views is, but it's probably closes in on over 100,000 at this point,
I see now. Yeah.
nearing that. But it was really basic. It was just me taking three mini Soho cups with coffee beans inside. There was tape on top, right? The dog's not eating any coffee. But it's a strong scent, right? And we
Mhm.
poked some holes inside, and we basically kind of did like a shell game in my hand. And for whatever reason, that video just resonated. I mean, it took off. And just hinting back at like the way YouTube works, right? I mean, you post, you post, you post, and then you get a number 1 out of 10. Like this thing is just, it is living. It has a life of its own, and it's amazing how many folks have found the channel just because of that very basic video. With just, I was just having some fun. It was like a, who knows, maybe a lazy Sunday or something like that. And it was like,
Right.
let me play some games with my dog. And we started. Scent work wasn't as prevalent as it is today, and I really do think that COVID helped make it explode because a lot of folks had more time at home. I mean, it's always been in the working dog space, but as far as recreation, agility obviously is probably one of the most visible dog sports out there.
Hmm.
You know, you know, dock diving or anything like that. You need other different resources, but it just
Right.
seems so what do you say? Not necessarily obtainable, but it just in the reach and the grasp of just folks. I mean, you can literally do scent work with anything around the house. So that's kind of when we got into scent work more seriously. Is we had a little bit more time. That video took off, and plus, I always wanted to make sure I was scratching the itch for my dog when it came to the intellectual stimulation. Like obviously you got to walk your dog. We exercise with our dog. He's a shepherd, so it's not like we were like jumping him or anything early and stuff. Make sure, he was a full grown adult before we got into some other, sports and stuff. But
Hmm.
a German Shepherd would likely tear up your house if you don't give them something
Yeah.
to do. Don't have a. I think a dog that's well exercised, a dog that's mentally stimulated, is a good dog. And of course, you tap on some obedience training into that, and you're gonna have a good relationship because I think that's gonna really help. You don't want your dog to be a burden to the family and be worrying about all this stuff. But sometimes I think the onus is a little bit on the owner to make sure that you're engaging your dog, and part of that is the reason we got in the scent work in the first place.
Gotcha. 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 How does scent work different from other dog training disciplines? I know you was talking about the mind, but what else does it? What's so different about it that you like so much?
Well, I mean, I also think you have to play to your breed's strength. And shepherd dogs just happen to be one of those that have often been in the working dog space. I mean, what does it used to be? It used to be IGP? Is it IGP? And then
IGP. Yeah.
shoots and,
Switching. Mhm.
but whatever, right? And now they have, shorter courses now. Folks aren't necessarily going through all of those things, and it may not be available in your area. But scent work, scent detection, whatever organization you might go through or online, it's always been uh, available for us. And I just think, what can I do with my German Shepherd dog that's really gonna stimulate him in a way that honestly is true to his breed. I mean, you can do whatever you want with your dog, but I was like, I think this would be cool. And I mean, I didn't do any commands in German. I know some folks do that. I mean, we could have got down with that, but I just don't really think there's any point for
Mhm.
me personally from a practical standpoint. But I was like, this is something, and he took to it. That's the other thing. I also didn't want to just be like, if he doesn't even like show interest in it, just takes a lot. I don't want to be dragging his feet through the mud, so to speak, in an
Right.
activity that's just not very interesting with him. And two of his favorite things to do outside of scent work is frisbee. So he loves a good frisbee game, which is great, right? Because I'm the owner, I can just throw it and then he can just go out there and come back and bring it in, and he's getting his exercise. But really, it was more like I want to do some breed specific training, and I thought he might have a knack for it. And sure enough, he enjoyed it. So I dove a little bit deeper, and I just tried to see what schools of thought were out there.
Mhm.
I'm big. I won't say I'm big on the research, but I like to understand the different schools of thought. But I'm also a realist in the sense that I do recognize that people have been training animals since like the beginning of time, and I don't want to
Right.
overcomplicate it because I often hear these forums, and it's okay. I'm okay engaging in a healthy debate of whatever, but I mean I don't want to make it rocket science either.
Right. Keep things
Yeah.
simple. I tell
Mm-hmm.
you what, that shepherd is a versatile dog.
Mm-hmm.
Very versatile dog. Uh, what other dogs you see out there that really excel in the sitting work?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they have like ratings out there. I mean, you see a lot of the dogs they use in what do you, I don't know the formal word for the sport, but whatever. Essentially, it's bird hunting or whatever they do. Like, and you rarely see a false alert with some of those dogs. And I know you see a lot of beagles in those space. Obviously, the
Mm-hmm.
hound dogs tend to do well. But the thing is, it's accessible. Any dog can actually do scent work, but we're just talking about the number of receptors and all of that stuff, some more of the anatomy of the dog that might make them more inclined to be successful in the sport by default.
Right.
But it doesn't mean, I mean, I've seen, you know, especially some of the leagues that are out there now, they make it so that you know even dogs with technical disabilities can participate. You know, so I don't want anyone to think that if I don't have one of those stereotypical breeds that I would associate with scent detection or working dog type stuff that they can't get involved in the sport because that is one of the good things about it. It really is for every dog.
Okay. So walk us through the scenario of how you train for. Did you go to a club? How did you learn it and all this good stuff?
No, I didn't because actually at the time, uh, like I said, it was kind of right around COVID when I really got into it and started some of my research really on the differences between the different organizations. Obviously, the major ones out there: AKC, NAC,
Hmm.
SW. Man, that's some alphabet soup right there.
Yeah, buddy.
But I wanted to understand what were the different rules, and I never participated in. So I don't work. I don't compete in the organizations. I really do just do it for fun and mental stipulation simulation for my dog. But I do like to understand what's out there. I'm not saying we'll never compete,
Right.
but I literally just started opening up the rule books of these organizations and seeing how it's done because a lot can be gleaned from just the structure of the various tests and the levels and like what is like introduction versus some of the more advanced or elite. You know, are we talking about single odors, multiple rooms, and the variances of the hides, and like what are some of the rules with regard to what's going on with like the distractions? And you can take that information, whether you compete or not, and shape your home environment, for example, or you know, a vehicle search outside on the car lot or whatever, to challenge your dog in various ways. And you don't have to go high and right, you know, right away. Like start at a level to keep it enjoyable for both you and your dog. Because if you're having success, most likely you're going to continue. And consistency, I think, is one of the biggest key components to training your dog in any aspect, whether it be scent work or something as basic as a sit.
Right. So so I was watching your YouTube video and it's on point. I'm going back personally and going to check out some things that I wanted to learn about scent work. In in the sports side, what scents are they tracking for?
A lot of times, birch, anise, clove, cypress. Those are probably the most popular. Yeah, so a lot of folks start with birch as an introductory scent. But I would say just do whatever. In fact, I had a one of my friend's kids was over the house the other day,
Mhm.
and I hadn't really even busted out the old school containers because I think if you can, you want to try to run your dog on different types of containers, so to speak, or different locations and whatever. Like if you got like luggage or bags or boxes or bricks or couches, whatever, anywhere. You want your dog to be able to find whatever it is you want him to find anywhere. So, but I know it's popular to start with the boxes, but even after a couple of weeks, you're going to be recycling those and having to go through them. So anyway, the kid was over there and he's like, "Hey, can I play with your dog?" And of course, eventually, you somehow always end up doing this hide and seek type game. And I was like,
Mhm.
"Hey," I was just trying to explain to him, like, "Hey, these are the basics of how you can get him to find the thing that you want to find." So we used a ball, and we literally this was just on the spot, and I was like, let's just make it easy. I try to just one of the most basic things you could probably teach a kid to get them to start getting into scent work with a dog is maybe like a approach like focused attention. Like I try if you can get your dog to just do the thing voluntarily on their own and get it. It's so much easier, I think, than trying to force and shape the behavior. Sometimes you're gonna have to help them more. So, for
Mhm.
instance, let's just put the ball on the floor and see what he does. So every time he interacted with the ball, we dropped a treat. We dropped the
Okay.
treat. If you want to get more specific, you can literally drop it right next to the ball. But depending on your dog, they might be able to generalize what's happening. It's that contact with the ball that's getting me the treat. If they figure that out, great. Move the ball somewhere else, make them sit, like, keep it in their eyesight initially. Like, I think one thing that I've seen in the questions I get on my YouTube channel is I feel like folks try to accelerate the progress way too quickly. And I'm like,
Hmm.
dogs don't generalize as well as people do. So if you can
Right.
just take it step by step, and then if you find your dog is getting frustrated or even you're getting frustrated, then just go back a step. And then that's how I've found to be able to make progress. So anyway, we went from him just getting contact with the ball because we put it on there. So we played on his curiosity and we were rewarding him. And then we moved the ball and then we moved the ball. And then eventually we were able to just have him wait in his crate, go place the ball somewhere, and we go say, find it. Now, granted, my dog understands that that's like a cue to go look for something, but he got it because he was getting treats. He was in the mood. His drive was high. So it was all good. And sure enough, he found it. And this was all in the span of maybe like 5, 10 minutes or less. Just playing to the dog's curiosity, rewarding him, keeping it positive. Like, this isn't a drag. Like, look at these people. I can't believe they're rewarding me for finding this ball. I mean, it's so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so you pretty much just have fun around the house and everything. You could is it you could teach your dog to pick up on any scent basically you want.
I mean, we've done keys. I've done socks. Fine,
So
fine.
keys.
Yeah.
So keys, what's gonna be the what is this dog what is he smelling to make him stimulate on the keys? Is it a scent you put on there for him to kind of help him or what?
I mean, you can use the literal keys because I mean, like, let's face it. If
Yeah.
you really lose your keys, is there gonna be some birch on there? Like, probably not.
Yeah.
Like, am I mixing my keys with the elements? Probably not.
Right.
So yeah, you literally train them on the keys. I mean, and another one that's popular is the remote control. I know we've
Hmm.
got like Bluetooth and stuff like that. Sometimes you can find it a little bit better, but sometimes it's in the couch. So, don't be afraid to teach your dog some practical
Man,
searches
I yeah,
that'll
I
like
need that right there.
yeah, yeah, that one's more fun. Or
Yeah.
like just stuff in the yard.
Right.
We've done that, like taking a balled up piece of aluminum foil and
Hmm.
search for that in the yard, and you can generalize that, especially for folks who might have to work with some different elements. I had a video about truffle oil, and there's no truffles down where I am, so you kind of got to work what you have. I mean, I don't know actually. Maybe they really are, but they're more prevalent in like places like Virginia and stuff like that. So
Right.
you can really train them to find whatever it is that you want them to find.
Gotcha. So does a dog have to want to do that type work to stay in it in a serious way, or is there ways to build his confidence and build his, well, I'll say, drive for scent work, if
Yeah,
that makes
so
sense?
I would say so. Like, the name of my podcast is the Dogs Are People Too podcast, and
Hmm.
and there's a lot of elements. I mean, there's a lot of things that are different, right? I don't want to say that they're people, but there's a lot of things that are very very similar in the sense of how you might even train a child, so to speak. So like. You wanna progress at the speed at which your dog is getting the concepts, and you want to make it like beyond super easy. Like when you're starting, like super easy. Like the problem is everybody sees these pristine finished products and no one wants to talk about what it took to get there.
Yeah.
And I mean, the main thing I really feel is like the number one question I get is how do you train the passive alert? And for those of you who may not know what a passive alert is versus an active alert, just think like if you were trying to find something that was on the floor and your dog got there. A more active alert might be there scratching at it or pawing at it or maybe even barking. But lately, there's been more of a trend towards we want our dogs to have a passive alert. To whereas perhaps sometimes let's be real, the dog may find the scent but they can't physically reach it, so maybe they just need to sit there and kind of just like they'll probably stare down that scent, and then you'll have to do the human thing and be like, I know it's somewhere in this area. But
Hmm.
the bottom line is if you listen to what I was saying there, it's that there's a purpose right behind a passive or an active alert, and there if that's what you want, then great. I mean, if the league rules call for there to be a passive alert and for them to not destroy the elements or the boxes on the course, then of course you want to train a passive alert. But just understand that sometimes that can take the excitement or the drive down for your dog. So you have to just be very careful in how you introduce that and keep the motivation high throughout the training. So that's one way to do it.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you this. I saw a video. I didn't look at it, but I saw you was talking about it briefly. You can get multiple scents, and these dogs can decipher through all those uh those herbal scents you was talking about. How does a dog knows what's going on? For him to be able to. Is it just certain breeds that really have that strength, or is it just most dogs got it?
Dogs in general don't, I'm gonna just say, smell like people do.
Uh huh.
Like when we go to smell and something's mixed together, that's literally what we smell. We smell the mix of whatever. It's almost as if dogs have like the anatomy to be able to separate, if you would, each of those odors. So if you had a cup of whatever, they would literally smell the peaches and the apples and the oranges, and it's all in the mixture.
Wow.
The challenge with that is that from the human perspective, we're asking them to do something specifically and alert on something very specific. So they have to understand in the training gates, right? What is it that you want me to indicate on? Like perhaps if I mean, because like you'll get a dog, right, that'll come in like more back into the working dog space, and they're trained on certain elements. Like they are trained to find whatever, 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 and if it's present, they're gonna alert on that. It could be one, it could be the other, it could be etc. But they also need to be able to be trained once you're able to proof that behavior. And by proof that, I mean you're getting the results that you want consistently for that particular element. Then perhaps you need to work with, can my dog detect the same thing with less of a concentration?
Mm.
So that's more of an advanced thing. If you're just doing recreational scent work, it may or may not matter. But that is one of the more advanced things that you can start to work with, and it's also pretty practical, right? Because there's a lot of hoopla in the scent work, detection space about don't mix your elements, keep your birch separate from the boxes because it's gonna taint the boxes with the smell, and then your dog will get confused. Well, yes and no. I say it's likely that your dog will get confused, especially in the early stages, but is that how the world works? Like, if you really had to find something, is it just going to be super duper clean and distinct? Or are there going to be some elements of some other stuff on there? If my dog had to find my keys in the yard, might they smell like grass or
Yeah.
dirt or whatever else is out there? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
not just going to be a perfect, pristine key scent.
Right.
So why is it that when we ask them to find the elements that it needs to be just this untainted, unmixed, like I got my gloves on and I'm mixing, and 100% for competition it should be done that way, but you'll find the more advanced you get in the space, if that's where you want to go, that you do want to introduce some of that difficulty and work with your dog on being like, yes, I want you to alert when there's a high concentration. Yes, I want you to alert when there's a low concentration. And yes, I want you to alert when it's mixed with another one. If you ever smell this scent, alert.
Okay, so that's a misconception. Um, what are some of the other biggest misconceptions about scent work?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to think of it from that perspective. I just try to think about
Okay.
the questions that I get asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of questions about the alert itself, and there's just a lot. Some dogs have more drive than others. Uh, well, I guess there's one. I don't know if it's a misconception, or just something that people do. But I find that in scent work, a lot of times it's the handler that's the real issue in
Mm.
a lot of things, especially earlier on when your dog perhaps doesn't have a nice pristine passive alert. You might have to look for other things in your dog to know, because there's a lot of comments on my channel about how do you know that your dog found the scent. Like, so there's definitely some benefit to because because you might have a personal bias whether you know it or not, because you place the scent to kind of almost direct your dog towards the scent, even in like an indoor house search, because you know where the
Mm-hmm.
scent is. So that's a very legitimate concern.
Right.
Not so much in the first, like the beginning stages. You just want your dog having lots of success. Doesn't mean you want to cheat. It just means you want your dog to experience lots of success. You want to take it step by step, but you also want to make sure that you as the handler, especially if you ever want to go and compete, that it's not you leading the search. The search should always be led by the dog. And early on, if your dog doesn't necessarily know how to indicate on scent, or get nose on target, or whatever it is you want to call it, or have obedience to odor, like whatever buzz phrase you want to use, then you have to look for other things for the alert, because, and it's going to be unique to your dog. I mean, they could do some, they could do all of these things. Like Disney sometimes does a little nose twitch when he gets close to scent. Sometimes if it's outside, sometimes your dog will do that little, like, quick little 360, like
Yeah.
lift in the air, like, oh, I found it. Like, your dog might do something. One thing my dog started doing early on, and it helped us train more of a passive alert over time, was that my dog was offering me a down. The reason he would offer me a down is because at the stage we were in the training was that it wasn't enough for him to just find the scent. I wanted him to basically start building obedience to odor. Obedience to odor is basically intelligent disobedience. And what we mean by that is, no matter if I pull on this leash, or if someone's calling your name, there's like a release word, right? So whatever your release word is, usually mine is just like okay, or all
Mm-hmm.
done. Um, I want you to stay on this odor. They might actually do this naturally, and the way you can shape this for them to do this naturally is to provide a jackpot. So yeah, if they just come into odor real fast and then they just briefly touch it and then they come off of the odor, yeah, you want to reward them with a treat or whatever it is, a ball or whatever your a form of reinforcement is. But they'll get a jackpot or more plethora of that award if they stay on target. And you can shape that, like if they came off, you can put the treat back there and then they go back on. And then just be still. Allow your dog to think. And this is where the cheating
Mm-hmm.
comes in, because if you have, I don't mean any harm to some other breeds, but if your dog is kind of smart and one of those smarter breeds, they'll
Yeah.
catch on to this a little bit faster. But they'll be like, oh, if I stay on odor, treats just keep coming. So what'll happen is it'll be pretty. It'll just be like, bam, I'm locked on target and the treats are flowing. They are flowing like rain. And then what'll happen is you'll be like all done, okay, and you'll almost have to pull your dog off the award because the scent, because it's just so rewarding, and what a great place to be. And that's the level of drive you want. You want your dog in that space. You want to be like, all right, we're done with this activity, we're moving on, and they're like, man, I can't wait to do this again.
That's what's up. So I saw you talking on certain boxes and the importance of changing up containers and things for the search. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and one of my I'll call him a friend, Jeremy McLaughlin of Family First Canine.
Hmm.
He has a method to, whereas, like, let's say he's training someone for like a NACSW competition. There's times when he won't even introduce the boxes until maybe 6 weeks out from the competition, and maybe start on other containers, if you would. So like a good place to start is like your local Goodwill, Salvation Army, or just something that you don't necessarily mind getting a little messed up and training with your dog. But really, it's not about the boxes. And the quicker you can get away from the boxes and generalize that behavior, again, dogs aren't so great at doing that. So that means just because they get it indoors, they may not necessarily get it outdoors. Just because they get it in one area, they may not get it with the vehicle. So they may not, it may be underground. There's so many different variables, and the more variables you expose your dog to, the more you're going to be able to proof that behavior. But just remember that this can all be very overwhelming with your dog, especially if they start to get frustrated. So you just have to take it step by step. And wherever your dog is in that journey, you as a handler dog team, that's fine. Just know that if you see a very pristine, always alerting, no matter where the scent can be found. There was a lot of work that went into that, to getting that to be consistent the way it is, and it probably was lots of repetitions and lots of sets.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, you know, we always you was talking about people always seeing the finished product, especially on social media. We don't hardly talk about the shortcomings. Um, what kind of challenges have you encountered in sit and work, and how did you address the challenges?
Yeah, I think honestly, I mean,
I know
for
you're good now. I know
yeah,
you're good.
oh no, no. I would say honestly, it's me. Mostly the main challenge is me. I think the
Okay.
dog gets the concept, particularly if you have a breed that's been doing it in that space for a while. I think they get it. I think a lot of times it's handler error. I'll go back to what I was talking about with regard to leading the dog, or maybe even you alert yourself almost. You give away where the scent is. And the other thing is killing the hunt drive. So I don't really think in sit work, especially low stakes type stuff, you should be saying no to your dog necessarily. I think the correction is the absence of the reward in this instance. Like, because we want to do everything we can to keep drive high. So they'll figure it out and just give your dog the space to think. Like, let
Hmm.
them literally try again. Like I have seen Disney like go to a location like a box for, let's say for instance, and down, because there's the other thing, this is why I say dogs are a little bit like people too. Sometimes they're like, you got to make sure it's distinct and they know what's getting them the behavior. He might just be like, I'm gonna just lie down next to all these boxes until one of them gives me the scent. And you may get that early on, but you want to make sure they understand that the thing that gets them the reward is finding that odor. So give them a chance to think. Don't go stand next to the box that has the scent just because you know it's there. One, your dog might just want to be next to you. So like literally allow them to lead the search and do whatever it is you can in your practice to enable as many repetitions like that as possible. One thing I was able to do is like a different drill to kind of get after that bias, if you would, because I would say that my biggest challenge is handler error. So it would be like you can do like the sit and search drill. Whatever,
Hmm.
I just made up that title. I don't know if it's actually
Okay.
called that, but just sounds professional. But literally, just put a seat or sit on a bench or whatever, and allow your dog to go into the quote unquote search area by themselves, right? So if you train the search, like if you're doing like a AKC type competition or whatever. Let's say you got 2 minutes to find the hide or whatever. I mean, it's all pretty much the same, right? Your dog's on a long leash. You wait to cross the line. You go around, and they should search every container. And you should actually literally train them to to literally make a search pattern. You also don't want them to miss anything, so you want to make sure they're actually searching everything. Now
Right.
that could be different, like if we're searching outside and stuff, because dogs are kind of a little bit aware of like this whole wind thing. So you might see them go this way, but it's because then now we're talking about different wind patterns and stuff. So they might come
Mhm.
back, but in an indoor setting specifically, you can definitely train a search pattern. But yeah, so you could build some dog independence and confidence. To whereas you reward your dog, you literally allow them to find the scent. You sit, they search, and then they're just nose on target. And you come into the search area and you reward them at source odor. So that's one of the things I've seen as one of my biggest challenges is because you sometimes, especially when you want to move to the next thing, right? You're like, oh man, we got it on the other scent. Why aren't we like 10 steps ahead? And it's like we ain't 10 steps
Right.
ahead because it's a completely different scent and this is new to me. So it's exercising patience, not trying to advance too quickly, and also just don't. At least for me, he's still my dog. Like he's still my pet,
Yeah.
right? So like at the end of the day, I'm not saying it's not important. You can definitely take it seriously, and by all means, if you want to compete at the highest levels. But do remember it's still your dog at the end of the day, and when you're done with scent work, he's still gonna be there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think that'd
It,
be my biggest bias.
does scent work have a ceiling on it? I mean, because say if you get bored doing something, I could teach them this. Maybe I could teach them how to. I know something that over here. Listening to you talk. I said, "Dang, I can I can show one of my dogs how to track deer the way they lose them around here. They shoot them and can't find them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how has it evolved your scent work journey, and is there ever a ceiling on it?
I think there's no ceiling, but there is a benefit to specialization. Right? So like
Yeah.
if you want your dog to be the best, I mean, back to dogs are people too, right? Like if you want
Hmm.
to be the best, right? I think we've capped it. There's a book, right? It's like 10,000 hours. I think we've calculated that if you want to be an expert in something, like I'm a musician, so if I truly, because that's what we found, right? Over the years, if you counted it up, like most of the folks that you're seeing doing it at the highest levels, and I'm not just saying like playing the piano or the guitar, but anything, like even with natural, what I would say God given ability, they still probably put in about 10,000 hours
1,000
of
hours.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can only do that with so much. You can only
Right.
be so great at so much. And you could
Right.
be a generalist, right? You can have knowledge, but the same goes for your dog. I won't put an hour amount on it, but what I'm saying there is if you want to be consistent, if you want to have those number of reps and sets for varying elements, you're going to have to specialize eventually, or you can just do it for fun, and they pick up on these concepts, but it's never going to be as pristine as you see if you don't focus on something. So I would say focus on something. I would recommend that, and even if it's in the recreational space, perhaps there's some safety things, like maybe I want my dog to be able to find, where's little Johnny? Where's
Yeah.
little Johnny? Like, I can't hear him. Where is he? And then it's just for fun, but like, oh, he found him, right? So like
Hmm.
maybe we can do it and he's a little further down the street with daddy or whatever. Like, just whatever you want to focus on. You can, I think you can literally teach them to find anything. And obviously in the civilian space, right? There's obviously bomb sniffing dogs. There's
Yeah.
diabetes alert dogs. There's dogs that can detect someone who's about to have a seizure, hormonal changes. Sometimes be able to detect certain diseases. So those
Yeah.
dogs focus on those things.
Right.
Obviously, I think every dog has a commonality that I think you can't even begin to get into. I've heard, this is my opinion, into any of the dog sports without your dog having some level of engagement with you or the handler. So I would say all dogs, I think, deserve a little bit of basic obedience training.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because your dog is more likely to learn or do the thing that you ask them to do if they're just, this is a basic one, looking at you. So so that's one of the first things, like, I mean, and we sought out a dog trainer. Like, I mean, you can do it yourself, but I just wanted to go through the wickets and not miss anything. So whatever that means to you, my dog has basic, level 1 and level 2 obedience, but the biggest thing out of all of that, like, if my dog never knew how to come into a heel and reverse all of that, and he can do those things, but if he never knew how to do any of that, and you have a dog that will just look you in the eyes and pay attention to you, and you're one of the most engaging things on the planet of earth to your dog, it's
Hmm.
amazing what you can teach your dog.
Hmm.
So a lot of dog trainers, when you bring your dog into their space, the thing they're really looking for is how much engagement does your dog have in you. Like when your dog goes into a sit, is the first thing he does is like look away. Like if you call his name, does he even at least turn his head back to look at you? All
Right.
those things will play a role later when you decide you want to focus your dog in on a particular dog sport or whatever it is you want to train him to do.
You said you were a musician. What kind of musician?
I do indie folk pop, yeah, in the Christian space. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, I mean, it's on Spotify, YouTube, and all that stuff on a
Well,
different
tell them
channel.
where it's at. Yeah.
Yeah,
What we
Geryah
find
Dingle
them?
music. Geryah Dingle music.
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go. Now.
yeah. I dropped a single in January, but
Oh, okay.
yeah. So yeah, I write all my own songs, and yeah, it's a fun pastime playing church and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Good. That's what's up. That's what's up. Boy, our guests are always so versatile. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
imagine you got to do something. Like when I think about folks who would post a video on YouTube, it's like, hey folks, just appreciate the host because the back end ain't easy. So
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool thing. That's why I really love this podcast. 'Cause I get obviously we have a lot of dog breeders on here,
Mhm.
and some reason people just think they're just dog breeders, just making dogs, and blah, blah, blah. These people are so versatile. It's like, man, we got guys that coach teams, coach little league teams, businessmen, all kind of just, but the people are not singular. You know what I'm saying? So podcasting is cool because you get to know more than just, now we're greedy now. When I put this up, I'm gonna title it about scent work. They come in here for scent work,
Mhm.
but they get to learn more about you than that. That's cool. I used to play at a church and stuff. My dad was a pastor.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome, awesome! Shout out to
yeah.
PKs,
Oh
preachers
yeah, yeah,
kids
yeah,
for
yeah,
those
yeah.
who may not know
PK
that.
boy, boy, I'm the true definition of PK. I was rough.
Yeah, yeah. Read up on that, everybody. There's some stories.
Oh boy, yes. Um, so the competitions in organizations, you was talking about the alphabet soup. Um, could you kind of explain the differences in between these organizations? Well, I think we got the AKC, the CPE, and the NACSW. Could you explain that?
Yeah, NACSW. Yeah, they have different competitions, right? So like
Okay.
depending on what you want to do, I would say AKC is probably still the most popular.
Hmm.
I don't know in terms of numbers, but NACSW is also very popular. And the way you go through the gates is actually different. I have a video on my YouTube channel that kind of breaks down AKC versus NACSW. Now, granted, they update their rule book I think pretty much every year, so I'll probably refresh that video. But usually, it's some nuance into uh, to those updates. So by and large, it doesn't change that much from year to year. But some of the differences between the organizations might be whether or not I won't say aggressive dogs are able to participate, but some will have some accommodation for that, right? To allow them to
Okay.
go through the course by themselves. Some have a preliminary test to whereas your dog has to certify on the elements themselves and like move through, like does your
Mhm.
dog even have the ability to do some of these basic tests before they go through some of the other more advanced tests or specialized tests. Some leagues have handler discrimination to whereas they basically have to identify the scent of the owner, so like the judge will go put like a, let's say, a sock or something with your scent on it, and like that's something that's unique, it's like its own thing, so like they might have a handler discrimination test.
Okay.
And then you have other leagues like Cyber Scent Work, which the president of that, if she's still in the role, is Diana Santos. I had her on my podcast a couple of years ago. And what I like about that league is, I mean, it's not like AKC or anything like that. It's not affiliated with them. It's its own thing. But one cool thing I like about that is that they have trainers on their staff who you can send in your videos of your dog doing scent work and just get an evaluation
Oh,
and
cool.
just get an evaluation. You can
Yeah.
also set up your course in your home with the hides according to the rules, and then get that evaluated as well. So if you kind of
Mhm.
wanted to do like a, I don't want to actually go out to a park or wherever they happen to be hosting your local AKC or NACSW event, or you can actually still get some repetitions, like graded repetitions, I would say, with an organization like Cyber Scent Work.
Mhm.
So I think that's cool. And then if you just happen to be an actual trainer and you want to provide that feedback to your clients, but maybe perhaps you have a little bit of overwhelm or more clients than you can handle, you could technically contract them to evaluate some of your videos, because it's not just like, oh, they found it or they didn't. They actually provide real feedback, like that you can actually action. So it's another resource for you, if you would, if you're an actual dog trainer. So I like them for that reason, because sometimes when you go to the like AKC, for example, not knocking any leagues in particular, but if you've seen the grade sheet, you're not it's up to there's so many dogs, you're not going to get in-depth feedback necessarily.
Right. Right.
So that's an advantage of using something like a organization like what I say, Cyber Scent Work.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um. So, let me see here. I had a question I was going to ask you. How do you train and prepare your dogs for the unique demands and challenges of sit work competitions? Is there like well, I know you in depth with yours, but is there like clubs that teach this particular deal or whatnot?
Yeah, I when I say scent work blew up after 2020, scent work blew up after 2020. I think you'd be
Right.
hard pressed to not find a community organization with your local dog trainer that doesn't have some type of scent work thing going on. It's
Hmm.
super popular. In fact, it was so popular that it was hard to get your dog in competitions. That's another reason why during all that downtime we didn't compete. Literally, there was like a waiting list. Like everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing it. It's probably not so hot now, but it's super popular, way more popular than it was years ago. But to just generally prepare, definitely, especially for like a larger event, you may be training this like in your living room. But just know that when you go to a competition, just think what the environment might be like if you happen to take your dog to like a dog park. So your dog needs to be able to be around other dogs, unless you're in one of those situations where they have exceptions and you can run your dog separately without the others on the course. You probably want to make sure just to not waste your money. I wouldn't say it's super expensive, but like if you want to just make sure you have a good day out there, like I would say your dog is probably ready to compete. If they're not crushing and destroying the boxes on the course, like are they able to stay focused long enough to be able to like, give yourself a fighting chance? And then if you can, at a bare minimum, don't just practice inside, at least practice outside a little bit. Like at the very
Mhm.
introductory levels, they're not allowed to have like major distractions and stuff like that. And they'll only be like one odor to find. And then as you go up, there might be multiple odors, multiple rooms, etc. But in the very beginning, read the rules. Yeah, read
Mhm.
the rules.
Read
I
the
think
rule book. Yeah.
read the rule book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can reach out and maybe look up those judges. Like when they're not actually doing the competitions and stuff, a lot of those folks are just dog trainers. So they're some of the best people to talk to about getting into scent work because anytime I'm doing anything in life, like forget scent training or dog training, I try to start from the fact of even if I don't want to do this professionally, I always want to train like a professional. Like I do sports and stuff too. And I don't care if I'm never going to go pro in this. I want to
Right.
do the things at scale that I can do, right? Because who
Right.
wants to I just don't like to be out there flapping. So I would
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
read the rules, get your dog socialized so you can go out and you can compete. Get Download a copy of the checklist that you would be graded on so you
Hmm.
understand what that looks like. And yeah, for some of them you have to be registered. That's another like difference between some of them. So if you want to compete in the AKC, you need to register your dog.
Right. Right. Um, Socialization, socializing your dogs and things like that. What does that look like to you? What are the things you do to socialize your dogs to get them comfortable for like events and being around a lot of dogs in the future?
Yeah, you can really miss this, and I won't say we got everything. Like my dog still has some tendencies in certain areas.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you've heard it, right? Like you want to take your dog to as many places as possible. It's like a balance, though. Like when they're young, right? You don't want to expose them to too much because they
Yeah,
can literally get sick.
that's right.
And you also don't want your dog to have a bad interaction with like another dog. You want it to always
Hmm.
be as you can, as controlled as possible. Is ridiculous how much the puppy years really matter for the later years when it comes to like dogs. So some stuff, like if you are where you're at, it's not like it can't change it, but it's gonna be like I don't want to sugarcoat this. It's gonna be way harder to change it later. Like puppyhood is where it's at when it comes to your dog and socialization.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the other thing about that is like some dogs are just bred to be a certain way. So I try not to correct dogs for stuff that the dog was bred to do. Like
Yeah.
maybe my dog was bred to protect, right? And
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So I can't trip when my dog tries to protect and work.
Yeah.
Even though he is not a working dog. It doesn't you're not gonna take that out of him. And he's a
Right.
purebred German Shepherd. You're not gonna take that out of him.
That's
So
right.
what I would say is play to your dog's breed strengths and where you can, especially if you could get your dog around other dogs in a controlled setting. Like
Hmm.
one thing I've seen some folks work on with like a reactive dog is like they get with a friend who has a you will meet your friends who have like these really controlled dogs. I know some dogs that just like it doesn't matter if there's like 10 dogs walking by them. They ain't moving. They're just down. It's like they literally like they just don't even care. So you need a dog like that, right? And then your reactive dog per se. And then like let's say you go to a an empty parking lot, right? And so you start to close the circle. So everybody's walking in a circle, right? But we're on the boundaries. We're on the perimeter of the parking lot, right? But because you're training with another handler and dog team that is not reactive to dogs and is really not phased by your dog just acting amuck and just crazy, like you can just see this in your head, right? One dog's over here just like, I see a dog, blah blah blah. Woo! Another dog's just like, what are we doing right now?
Right.
And so it'll probably start that way because what's that dog? Your dog likely sees that other dog as like some type of threat or whatever. And we
Hmm.
just want to get to the point where we don't have to be best friends. Like I'm not saying like I'm not one of those people who's like I think that's weird when people come up and like their dog goes straight for your dog. Like you don't know anything about that other dog, so this could be a bad reaction. Like they might be sensing something like or whatever. But I do want to get to the point, and you should want to get to the point to whereas just because your dog sees a dog, they're not going crazy because
Mm-hmm.
that's not a controlled relationship. You don't want
Right.
that. Like when
No.
you're just walking, like so. But you can train that. But it's a lot easier to do when your dog is a puppy. But those are some of the things you can do when they're an adult. So you would have an engagement like that, right? And that's a positive experience. This dog was in the vicinity of the other dog. Nothing happened, and the other dog wasn't even being reactive or paying attention. And then all of a sudden, the circle starts getting closer. All right, and we just do this. There's other things you can do, but what I'm saying is if the dog was deeming the other dog to be a threat, right, just by their mere presence, your dog also needs to understand that just because there's another dog doesn't always mean it's going to be a threat. And then you, in that situation, as the handler, because your dog can sense and smell your hormonal changes, you
Mm-hmm.
need to be super chill too, like that other dog that's not giving 2 cents about what your dog is doing.
Right.
And then you can change and flip the script. But it's hard to fight against if your dog has had a bad experience, like if your dog's been bitten or that's why some folks are just anti dog park. Period.
Yeah.
Blank. They don't do
Yeah.
dog parks. They don't do dog kennels. They don't do. You just want to, and you everybody can afford to do that, right? Like some people, you got to go out of town and you don't have a buddy to watch your dog, and you have to put your dog in a kennel.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may not have a green space and have to go to a common green space with their dog. So I'm not here to judge one way or the other. I'm just saying when we do those types of things, unfortunately, we also open ourselves up to our dog potentially having a bad experience that ultimately helps shape their behavior. And we, as handlers, as much as possible, want to be the ones who shape our dog's behavior.
Facts, facts, facts. Thanks for saying that. Let's shift gears here for a minute. I see that you are into the photography world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you develop this skill here? And how does it complement the work with your tracking and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I can't remember a time when a camera wasn't in my face, and I think I'd have my dad to thank for that.
Okay.
Like he was the photographer. Like just back in the day, right when we were using film cameras and before we were snapping, and you didn't really have to worry about expending film or worried about the development process and all of that stuff, right? Always a
Mhm.
camera bag. In fact, he just gave me a camera the other day with some Ilford film that I'm gonna take a look at because we have a new processing center here. So yeah, bottom line is I love photography. I love. He wasn't so much into the camera space in the sense of like motion pictures or film, I guess I would say. So
Mhm.
he was more of a photographer. But I got more into the video space. But I got just coming up on YouTube, some of the early successes on YouTube were actually a lot of photographers, and they started going behind the scenes, especially when we've gone digital. And I can appreciate a dark room and all the manual processes, but I largely do editing of the photos in a program called Adobe Lightroom. To
Okay.
manipulate the photos and then every now and then bring them into Photoshop. But I can do the bulk of what I want to do, particularly when it comes to pet photography, and just personal photos as well, right? In Lightroom. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I started documenting. Always believe in like taking memories, and I probably because I know what I look like in probably every stage of life. Just
Oh
just
no.
just like to push that forward. And dogs are beautiful. Different colors and different shapes, and sometimes they make funny faces. And if you have a dog, one of the best angles you can get is like nose on, like from above with a wide angled lens. So I mean, humans don't look that great from that angle. Like that ain't a good picture for us unless that's what
Mhm.
you're trying to do. Like maybe we would shoot up and do like that hero pose that you often see like
Yeah.
athletic pictures. Like think of like a LeBron and he's got his, how they do. He's standing
Right.
there, or like you got the ball out and it's like that.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we don't look that great in close ups on wide angles. Usually we save that for like group portraits or we're going for a certain style. But your dog, it's like perfect. So, tongue out. So try that, with a wide angle lens from the top, but or a 24 millimeter lens. But whatever you have is fine. Like our phones are taking really, really great photos to these days. But I'd like
Right.
to try to spice them up And I have some steps if you're interested. I need to refresh some of those too, but the programs haven't really changed. So I generally do the same things on my dog photography to make them look a little bit more alive. Really bringing out the detail in their fur, like just sharpening that up so it really comes out, so it looks like in person. Like if you saw me so fluffy, it's like you want it to look like that in your photos and maybe brighten their eyes up. So when you look at your photos of your dogs, because unfortunately, just like people, they won't be here with us forever, and so I want memories of my dogs too.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it was something you was talking. There was something crossed my mind. I breed a dog called the Central Asian Shepherd. Some people say the Alibi or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about camera tricks with dogs. And one trick I see that a lot of people do, especially when they try to sell size. Some dogs, like when you deal with master breed, they gonna pop up size, size, size. And so they'll have a dog in front of them, and they'll stand behind them, and be like, "Look how big this dog is."
For scale.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's
yeah,
good. I mean it's good for
yeah.
shelter dogs too. Like they
Right.
shelter dogs need love too. So
Yeah.
if any of y'all have those photography skills, that's something that's often called for too. So
Hmm.
you can edit for them. So doctor up the photos a little bit, get folks coming through the door.
Right. That's what's up. Now you got some podcasts too. What kind of people we talking to over there on that?
Yeah, I mean we've talked to a lot of folks. Like as we've seen, like I mean, we went into the scent work space because that's where the channel took off. But like
Hmm.
obviously, I have other interests, and so
Hmm.
I'm a character, if you would, in the social media space. So I'm interested in dogs and social media as well, and just technology overall, and how we can leverage that for our training. So we touch on when we can have folks in the scent work space. We had Teresa Hatcher as well. She's the founder of a product called Nose Work in a Box. And it's a product. She had it on what's that one? Etsy. I think she's also got it on her website as well. We've had, like I said, Jeremy McLaughlin from Family First Canine. We've had some folks on from. We actually had the president and CEO of. What do you call it? Cyber Scent Work,
Cyber Center. Yeah.
and on her All About Scent Work podcast. So we've had a lot of trainers, some folks in the agility space, in the social media space, and yeah. So yeah, I would say it's about scent detection, pet technology, and pet photography. And just basically, how can your dog help you, live a more fulfilled life, with your furry friend?
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, I got to be honest. Soon as you crack the screen open before we start, I started learning stuff. Like, dang, what we doing here? You was just talking to the thing. I'm like, okay, okay. So, but I do appreciate you coming through and dropping your knowledge. Everybody, I want y'all to go over to her platforms and check her out. Some good stuff over there. If you don't mind, tell them where to find you. If they want to contact you, let them know.
Yeah, we're at Dingle Days on YouTube and X, so check us out. Yeah, our Dingle Days YouTube channel is over 5,000 subscribers now, so thank you all so much for the love. And then there's a drop down with all kinds of links if you want to shoot me a note or whatnot, or you have questions, just leave a comment, and hopefully we can share a comment this completely humbly. I don't claim to know everything. I try to get my digital apprenticeship, as I call this journey on YouTube.
There you
So
go.
always open to learn and share. So appreciate it. And thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you. You can come back and see us anytime you want.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. We'll see y'all next time.
And that wraps up another episode of NWA Connie Corsos. Thank you for being a part of our Connie Corso community. Remember, you can stay connected with us beyond the podcast. Find us on all major media platforms by searching for NWA Connie Corsos. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube, just hit that follow button to join the conversation and get the latest updates. If you have a burning question or want to apply to be a guest on our show, we'd love to hear from you. Simply shoot us an email at nwaconniecorsos@gmail.com. And if you're a business interested in becoming a sponsor, reach out to us at the same email address. For more resources, exclusive content, and links to all our social media profiles, visit our website at nwaconniecorsos.com. It's your go-to destination for everything dogs. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we can't wait to bring you more exciting episodes where we explore the fascinating world of dogs.